radial body is part of our personal anatomy. It's part of the planetary anatomy. I've said this before. It is like a tissue capsule that forms around the Hoover bodies, be they planetary Hoover bodies or harmonic universe Hoover bodies or personal Hoover bodies. The radial bodies have a very important role in what's called the transduction sequence. The transduction sequence is the manifestation sequence, how consciousness becomes things that eventually become the projected hologram that we see as solid. All right, this is page 24. Now on 33, this is actually the diagram. It looked like this, but there was a lot more information on it. That when we ran it through at the printer, for some reason, when they took it out and off the disk, it ate half of the graphics. I don't know why. They're still on the disk, but they didn't print out at the printing place. Interesting. But this is still enough to work from. The transduction sequence simply means primal life force currents come through here, the Cathara grid template. First they come through the planetary Cathara grid template. They go through the solar shield. Then they go through the 4 levels of the planetary shields. Then they go into what's called the Chelon crystal body. That's where here you have part-K units, and they progressively build up to form chelons. So you have a Chelon crystal body, which is like a thought form field, but it has tangible substance. That goes into Merkaba fields, where it spins and spirals the chelons, where they go into what's called the planetary axiom template, which would be the same in the planetary body as our DNA template in the human body. All right, it goes into the planetary axiom template, and then into the axiom lines. Then that would be axiom template and axiom lines. Then it goes into the planetary Hoover bodies, which are these. Okay, we have a Hoover body is a 3-dimensional body. Okay, so I'm showing basically a Hoover body here. It has a D1 level, or like its first level, its second level, and its third. If this was harmonic 2 Hoover body, you would have D4, D5, D6. But down here in density 1, you have dimension 1, dimension 2, dimension 3. Doesn't matter what level of Hoover bodies you're on. The third rung out is the mental body. You have the physical, the emotional, and the mental body focus. All right? The mental body, right in this area, and this is some of the stuff was on the map, there's an area called the Eros. The Eros is the place where the primal life force currents, and it's really interesting and has to do with what units of consciousness are doing as they pass each other by. You actually have a primal life force current that comes in, circulates into the hologram, and as it's coming back, another one's coming out, and there's a point where they repeatedly intersect. That's what gives us our present moment of focus. All right, and this is the transition point. You'd have the Eros as a starburst here. In the other diagrams you will, once we get that diagram fixed. Mental body, Eros level, connects to what's called the radial body level, which would be the outer skin of the Hoover body. And you have 5 radial body levels, one for each of your Hoover body levels. Okay? Now, the planet has Hoover body levels. The D3 mental body of the planet would be the atmosphere, where the emotional body would actually be what we see as the physical substance, the elemental kingdoms and the rocks and molecules that we see. All right, and this would be the subatomic structures that form the elemental kingdoms on a planetary level. So the atmosphere, we're like walking around in Earth's mental body, basically. All right, now, the radial body is that capsule that goes around the Hoover bodies, and there's a process where energy, primal life force currents, come through here as part-K. They start as part-K. They break down into part-K and part-Cum, which means they polarize. They progressively form part-K grids, which are the shields, progressively build up into what are called chelons, which are 3-dimensional part-K grids. They turn into Merkabas, and they progressively work, bringing the currents up. Now they're bringing the primal life force current into manifestation. Comes through that point that's called the Eros point, which gives us our flashed-on moment where we see our hologram as continuous. And then it processes through, we have the Hoover bodies, the vortices, which are the same as the chakras. Planets have vortices, bodies have vortices, they're called chakras, all right, and ley lines. Then there's something called, all right, actually these come in through here. They connect in through here. Let me see, the sequence is down here. The diagram is a little hard to follow. Axial lines to Hoover bodies, auric field levels, chakras, meridian lines. That's when it goes into the radial body. Okay, so you do the chakras and the meridian lines, chakras and meridian lines first when it's going from Hoover body into here. Then it goes into what's called the trion meage field of the 5 radial body levels. So the primal life force current comes in here through each level of the radial body and then progresses out into through what are called radius, which are like They're lines of energy that take the chelons that are it's still in chelon, the current is still in chelon form here, and it changes them into what are called trion units and meon units, M-E-A-J-H-O-N units. The radius being the process of taking the energy into what are called myons and dions. So it goes from trions and meons. The trions form the light field of the radio body. The meons form the sound field of the radio body. And they go through the radius and become myons and dions, which are the units that build up to be negative and positive electrical charged units that form like things like electrons and protons and those kind of things. And they progressively build up to form the form in the hologram that we know. So primal life force current comes in, and then it actually comes back once it fully expands. Let's say it takes a mathematical pattern, pulls it all the way through those different transitions, projects it out here to its full expansion. That whole mathematical pattern is expanded. Then it starts to retreat. It contracts again. And as it's contracting, the next one is coming out. And we are seeing the intersection point. And they actually leave an imprint of themselves in the radial body, which creates a memory matrix. This is why what we experience after the one pulse comes through, we'll experience it, actually we're perceiving from here, but we'll experience what comes out here as the present moment. It seems to disappear, and right here is where we're seeing the next one come in. This one comes back, and it leaves a replica of itself before the current goes all the way back into the template, and that becomes what they call memory tiles, or meon tiles. They're sound tiles, or sound configurations that are left in the radio body. Now, the planet has a radio body that holds literally the planetary memory banks, or what they're supposed to be. This is the planetary sequence. Actually goes from this sequence through into the Cathara grids. It starts it all over of every life form that's on the planet, all the smaller things that live on a planet. This is how they process the primal currents too. It goes through the same sequence. Now, these little signs here were meant to talk, it was when we were talking about miasms. They block the energy, and if there's a miasm in the Earth template, it goes all the way through, carried on through as a mathematical distortion, goes all the way through and comes out in you through your DNA. All right, this is the DNA thing. So with the radial body, when we are using, this is why I want you to understand a little bit at least about radial body. There's a whole section that I duplicated in here, just in case you hadn't gone to Cathara, that talks about the relationship between radial body and Merkaba, and also more about this transduction sequence, because here is the key to thought manifestation. There are some tricks we need to learn, and we're going to learn how to do it. But right here is the mental body level. If we program Vecca codes in there by using them with our present moment of focus in our minds, running them through our bodies, we are setting a mathematical program that carries divine blueprint and brings in the primal fields, the currents, the trion meage fields of the universe that correspond to our radial body levels. We are bringing in the codes with the Veccas that correspond to the radial body levels, which means any of the memory imprints that are carrying miasmic mess that are distorted. If the miasmic mess is distorted, what happens with memory is it actually gets carried along with the next current that comes in, a piece of it. The memory gets expanded, so you see your next moment coming out with the memory as if like this moment passed into this moment. So they continually replicate. If you have distortions in the memory matrix, they continually amplify. The more a being is on the planet, the more this energy circulates. If you put a Vecca code in the mental body, which is what we were doing when we were using them, and then running it through this way, you're creating a mathematical clearing here that will get picked up by the pulse of consciousness, because this happens so fast. I mean, there's like more than nanosecond bursts of consciousness, pulses of consciousness that come in and out and keep us conscious here. You would put the Vecca codes in here in your mental body. It would end up, and especially when we run it through the currents consciously, we're putting it in mental, emotional, and physical body all at the same time. That will create the antidote to that, okay, the distorted pattern. It will be projected out all the way through. It'll start progressively moving into the hologram, and it'll start coming back the same path and flipping over and clearing the distorted imprint that was there. This is what the Vecca codes do, and then they go from clearing our bodies into the planetary body. So the current that came from the galaxy, right? Galactic Merkaba came through the planetary Merkaba, then down through our Cathara and Merkaba, then down through our Cathara and Merkaba. It actually backflows when the next one's coming. So we're literally sending the correction back this way. This is why Vecca codes are important. They access this field area, the radial body, and they have which means they correspond to those tissue capsule levels that surround each Huva body level. and they are the programming centers as far as our conscious awareness as sentient beings happens in the eros level right here. That's where we decide what we're going to put where. If we're still running programs that we don't know because we have blockages here and here, and we forget who we are, and we know we're mental, but we forget, we can feel our emotional body but don't remember what it does, and we don't even remember we have a body consciousness, it's just something we walk around in. As long as we're in that space, we're disempowered in this process. When we use the Vecca codes, we're progressively healing this, which will take the healing all the way back through. So the more we use the Veccas, the more we reset our divine blueprint. They are the strongest codes available on the planet. There are high Veccas and mid Veccas and low Veccas. The high Veccas are called the codes of Imanyana. The mid Veccas, or the next level of high Veccas down, will be the codes of Emmanuel. The mid Veccas are called the codes of Imanu, and the codes corresponding to the density 1 fields are the codes of Manu. And these are very, very powerful manifestation codes. They're going to introduce all of them. Right now, we're just working with the high Veccas, which means we're resetting the divine blueprints first, before we get worried about playing with manifesting things here by messing with the lower codes where you can work with the lower bodies that are going to project stuff directly out. First, clear this stuff so you don't make more messes by using the low Veccas first, because the low Veccas have the ability to bring into manifestation things directly into the lower density levels. So that means if you're going to manifest something, if you're going to use a high Vecca, you're clearing the radial body levels all the way down. But if you're using just the low Veccas, you would actually be projecting something out here. And if you're not using them together, this is where things like what we're living right now take place. The way the crystal technologies are being used right now was from using the Manau and the Immanau codes in the wrong way, because you can play with those and mess with those. But you can't fully run them the right way because they all need D12 frequency to run properly. So we're learning to use the Vecca codes. And the Veccas that we have are, I think we'll just put those up real quick just to show the people, are on page... Okay. They're somewhere. Yeah, let's see what page they are. It might be, yeah. I don't have my whole thing here, so I'm digging through it. 33. Yeah, 34. 35. Yeah, that goes with page 34, which is Technique 10 from the new stuff in the Cathara manual. So I put it in here too, so the people that don't have the new stuff in the Cathara manual, because you weren't at the Cathara course, can still use this. They're very easy to work with compared to some of the other techniques we've had to learn how to do. These are simple. You need to activate your Maharic seal to run them, but they're very, very simple to work with. The exercise for the ones on, for the codes on page 35 is exercise 10. It's on page 34. These particular codes work, they're called photoradionic healing. They work primarily with the trion field, the light field. When you get to the Akasha works with the sound field or the Meon field. Together, what it's called is either radial body healing or trion Miage field healing. We're actually doing this on a planetary level. This is how the buffer blanket's going to be created in the planetary body so the planet can sustain enough of a Merkaba field to pass through the stellar activation cycle without going in the shift. It will do the same for our bodies. It will help us to progressively build Merkaba. So there is information in your packet that will, if you read through it, will tell you the connection between these and Merkabas. And there will be more in the Dance of Life course when they're going to give us, from what I hear, all of the Veccas and beginning to work more with how we can use them. We already know about that Eros point where our conscious focus is, and how that is a very powerful spot. That's why it's usually said, even in the New Age movement, it said this, that our moment of power is always in the present, which is true. And there's a lot more to that statement than we've been told. So we have the Veccas. Did we have them up? Okay. And then did you have the Q Vecca up there? I mean the Akasha up there? Okay. Yeah, and the Akasha code that we were using earlier. The Akasha is the most powerful one. It affects the sound field level, because the radial body, each level, you have 5 levels of the radial body surrounding, and you have 5 capsules around each of your Huva body levels. Each radial body level has two fields. It has a Meon field, which is the sound field, which is vibration, and it has the Trion field, which is the light field, all right, which is oscillating units. So the first exercise, exercise 10, works on the areas that are the light field. These are the light field codes, the Trion codes, and the Akasha works with the sound field codes. Sound is stronger than light. it actually holds the vibration, like holds the frequency more, where light pushes it out and transmits it or dispels it. So when we're working with Vecca codes, we'll learn how to use them both, because both levels of both of the triana mirage fields need to be healed. But this is the beginning of a whole new world of technologies that I'm very excited about. So I wanted you to know about those and to have them. They introduced a lot of this very, very recently. In fact, when we went to Peru over December, this last December to the beginning of January, this is when they introduced the Akasha. We didn't even have the Akasha before that, because the Akasha was not, the mathematics of it weren't activated in the four faces of man grid, in the planetary grids, so it couldn't be activated yet in a body. It had to be available in the grids, and the guardian races, the founders, are resetting those programs. So now they're becoming progressively available to us. Okay. What? Oh, okay, yeah, we didn't get into those, did we? Uma he treina he, uma he treina he, uma he treina he. So you can move it around. He treina he, uma he treina he. So if you work with that, and you have the beginning exercises of how to begin working with them, and we're just learning something new up here, because they had us do this particular round table. We've never used a witness before or a receiver, where we literally had in those little pyramids, we had the Vecca codes. This one only had the Akasha, the other one had the Akasha and the sheet with all the Veccas on it. And they make a mathematical link through the morphogenetic field of the planet, and they literally transmit. So there's a whole new level coming through. I'm looking forward to it. There's one more, I think, one more thing I want to point out to you, and then one more thing I just want to show you really quick so you know where it is. Actually, both, I can do that. Between pages 42, 43, and 44, and 45, no, 42, 43, and 44, you have what's called the Crisis Intervention Expedited Amente Opening Schedule, 2000 to 2012. This is the new schedule of how the grids are activating, what work is being done where, what's expected as countermeasures. Now the secret missions, like this one was, that we don't even know about until we show up, aren't on here, obviously. But the basic things that we are working to achieve are on there. It tells us where we're doing what with the four faces of man grid, which levels of it are activating when. So there's a lot of technical data there. That's pulled out of the Voyagers 2 book. And there's a lot more information on that stuff in the Voyagers 2 book. But at least it gives you a summary so you know basically what dates are happening when. On page 45, you have the Angelic Human 12 Tribes and Indigo Magi Grail Line summary chart. That is just a chart that gives you a basic summary of the Human 12 Tribes and some of their affiliations, the locations they were a part of, and what people they might be a part of now, like what groups on the planet they might be a part of now. Then, between page 46 and, oh, this one's quite long, and 51, I think, 46 to 51. 46 introduces you to what are the intruder race and Illuminati races, what their basic affiliations are, what their historical affiliation is. These are the who's who charts. Now, they're not going to name channels who are talking to somebody. They're going to name the one they're talking to. They're not going to pick on people here that are being manipulated. It's not the people here's fault. But you'll be able to get an idea of who's affiliated with what agendas, and you'll be very, very surprised by some of them. I was surprised by some of them. I mean, some of the guys I thought were the good guys weren't even, playing a nice agenda, and geez, boy, they had me fooled. So this was given to us with page 46 coming first, which is an orientation to, okay, you're being entrusted with this knowledge. This is how it's supposed to be used. It is not supposed to be used as an excuse for prejudice or an excuse for judgment. It's being given so we can begin to understand, so we don't get kind of flattened by opening ourselves to all sorts of things, naively. But it's also showing us what areas need to be healed, what the areas that could harm us if we get involved with them. Doesn't mean you don't go into them. It means you be aware that if you go into them, you're supposed to be a healing force, which means a force that brings divine blueprint back into them. So we never tell you don't go around people. We say hang out with them, but run your D12 frequency and bring more of that into their midst, because more and more of them will be able to grab that little subharmonic, some of it anyway, and may be able to begin their own process of healing. So this was also put in the Voyagers books. It was done out of necessity because there are so many con games being played right now through the Michael Matrix and the United Resistance, and it's going to get worse. If they have their way, they're going to do holographic inserts where you see, you have like 10,000 people somewhere see like the sky, the sun turned bright pink and Mother Mary, floats in the middle of it and comes down and talks to them. These kind of things, that would be nice if God actually did speak to us in those ways. That's not how it really works. We can have experiences like that ourselves, and sometimes they're real. But those experiences, we can be tricked into believing they are actual spiritual experiences when they're really not. If a being can transmit frequency to you where it knows how to trigger certain things in your emotional body that'll release endorphins, you will feel that it's good for you even if it isn't. They can control your mental and emotional bodies unless you're running D12 frequency. Then you will see something different behind the illusion. You may be aware of the illusion, or maybe not. You may just see a bunch of people staring at nothing and go, oh boy, there's one. Wonder what it is.
They live. The video, They Live. Did you ever see that?
I don't think so, no. No, do they deal with that? So these things, anyway, are to prepare us for what's going on, and this Who's Who list was just so we can start making wise decisions as far as what we let ourselves get involved with, what kind of workshops we're going to go through. You can go to anybody's, but I suggest wearing your Maharic seal wherever you go. Don't leave home without it. And not because you're afraid. Wear it because you're a healer. Wear it because you're going to bring Christos frequency, and if there just happens to be anything that's out of order in any space, you're going to allow that field to help heal. So you don't wear it because I'm afraid something's going to get me. No, you wear it because I don't have to be afraid. I have this, but I know it can generate love frequency, which can help to heal anything that might need it. Yes?
The indigo-free children, is their path more difficult now because of the force that
Hugely. They're trying to body snatch them. But there are things we can do. At some point, we're going to give an indigo workshop. We were supposed to do one in Houston or Phoenix. Phoenix, I think, was that one. But because we needed to come up here, we couldn't. It was just too much traveling in a small block of time, so we didn't get to do it. And I was glad, because I felt like there was a bunch more we need to know to really help indigos, and that I just didn't have it in written form yet, and I didn't have time to do a whole program. Mm-hmm. You can run your Maharic seal, activate the Kirishe code, or the Akasha code, in your biofields through the exercise. And ever so gently, and you can do it remote. It's more powerful if you first do it while in their presence. But simply send the Akasha on a beam of Maharata current to their D12 Maharic shield, to the point where their shield would activate below their feet. Now, if they're your own child, you have a right to pull up their Maharic seal. In fact, you almost have a responsibility to do it. In the old days, we did that with our infants and children until they could grow up to do their own. But if it's somebody else's child or a grown-up or something, it would be an infringement of will if you forcefully activated somebody's shield. So what you do is you send the Akasha, and you can do it with the Ruche, the center part, that's a smaller code. Send that with the D12 frequency into the point where their Maharic seal would activate below their feet, and you have set a grounding field. If their avatar wants to activate it, you've given it an easy way to activate. You've given it a grounding frequency. So it will be up to their avatar whether you will be able to whether it will shoot down the frequency to meet it, or it'll pull up the shield. Once the being starts Maharic shield, it sets in motion a process of healing. There's a lot of things we can do with indigos, but they require us really going into what the indigo problem is and doing very specific targeted things. For now, things like that will work. Simply trigger activation of their Maharic seal. While you're doing that, it will open the 12th chakra. Part of the indigo's problem, even indigos that aren't indigo 3s have this problem sometimes when they're small. If their 12th chakra isn't opening, which it often doesn't because of the planetary grids, the frequencies, they carry more frequency in the DNA, and as they're activating, it builds up in the field, and they start to get wacky because it drags their chemicals, their brain chemicals around. They go manic depressive, they can, have all sorts of problems. If you open the 12th chakra, which will happen automatically if you send the spark of the the Maharic seal frequency, especially if it's coated with the Ruche. If you send that over, you at least temporarily open the 12th chakra so all that extra energy can run down and start to circulate through the earth's grids, and they'll be able to balance their fields. So that's one thing that you can do also. Okay. That the Iani are sharing with us now. This is a new one, and I'm being told that this is just a glimpse of a set of meditation tapes that have something to do with Voyage to Amente that they are planning to do. I don't know when they're going to be out, but this is the second warning, so I know they're serious. All right, this is the beginning of being able to use the Vecca codes. The Vecca codes are very interesting because they're also part of what are called the time travel codes, which means they can be used for very specific projection of consciousness, where you can not only get into like your astral body with them, you can point it where you want it to go. You could pick a star system and these kind of things. We're not being taught quite yet to time travel. However, we are in a way. We're being taught this particular exercise, and I'm not going to have the steps written down. This is going to be like a live version as it's coming through. It's not going to be very long, but it's meant to get us into, while we have the frequency running, because we're still running nice frequency from the round table. Once we get through the first time, it'll be easy to come through the second time. So we have the group support field right now with us to amplify our fields. We're simply going to use the Akasha core code, which is the Ruche code. I guess we could put that back up, love. Do we have that someplace?
We have it on the Akasha.
Yeah.
Just take a moment to find it.
Just take a moment to find it. Okay.
They're all sticking together ones.
Yeah. It's in there somewhere. I forget what page that was on. 37. Thank you. Okay. Okay, we're just going to use the Ruche, because the Ruche actually carries all the coding of the whole Akasha. And it's also the programming center. So that's where your intention gets translated into mathematics, into the divine blueprint, because this is the, especially with the Akasha code, because it is, literally the God seed code. When you use that, it's going to be in line with your divine blueprint, or it's not going to work. So we're going to use this code as the visual, as the carrier of our consciousness. It is like a pass key that will allow us, not just, we've had other exercises in other workshops where spontaneously they come through and say, we're going to take this group down to Amente. We're going to take them in, to Amente. But we've never ever taken a group into the libraries before. They're like kind of special areas that you've had to have been there, usually, for a while. And, and done other things in the halls of Amente before you get to see the libraries. That makes me suspect that this group of people, the people that are here tonight, have been there before, that you've been taken to the halls of Mente before, which means you have somebody already looking out for you in inner earth. You wouldn't, bless you, I do not, all right, okay, I was right on that. He said you wouldn't be being taken to the libraries unless you were already quite seasoned in going through. Now, you may not have any conscious memory of it, but it's in your memory template someplace. This will help you to begin to remember, it'll help you to begin to remember the other times that you've been there. All right, I'm being told now that this particular group of people have actually been being taken to Amente since they were children, literally, since you came on planet, because you had particular contracts that had to do with, no kidding, the Vecca codes and more. But they're not releasing what that is. But they're saying that you had some type of special, and it's a collective contract, like you're all part of a team, and there's other parts of this particular team in other areas of the globe. But you've all had training in going to the halls of Amente, and it's time to start remembering that you had training in going to the halls of Amente. So this will get you into the libraries. And where you go from there is going to be, very much individual. But we're going to simply use this code in a very simple way to get down there. I'm not going to take you on a 20-minute journey right now. I'm also being told now that the program that they're planning to put out in the next few months is how it's being worded. Oh boy, here we go, another one. I mean, I love them, but geez, it's like it takes a lot of time to get them down. It's going to be a tape program, an audio program, where you simply can pop on the headphones and just follow meditation, and it will get you in to certain areas of a mente that you will then go from there on your own, and eventually you'll find yourself going off the tape and having, experiences and meeting people, and whatever your purpose for having that kind of access to a mente is, you'll find out. And then you would be able to ride the tape back, or sometimes the tape would just shut off and you would keep going. This is going to be a special tape set, and this particular group, they're saying you could start with this technique that's being given now, and if you want to, once the tapes become available and you feel you need some more support, that will help you to get those sequences in, because it'll start to wake up the corresponding templates in your DNA that are holding the memory of when you went from the time you were kids. That's interesting. I've never met a whole group that they've ever said that before, that you were... I've had groups where repeatedly where they said, you're all indigo children, you're all indigo children. They didn't say that with this group this time. They said there's many indigo children as usual, but they didn't say everybody was. So that was a little different than what we usually get. But this one, they have said literally everybody has been taken to the halls of a mente since childhood, and I find that's quite amazing, because I didn't realize that, well, I should have, that there were large groups that were being taken. So the technique is not difficult. It's hard to do techniques with all the lights on, but especially when you're trying to shift your consciousness. I suggest, yeah, thank you. Yeah, much better. Yeah, even though that's real bright, we do need it to kind of see what the thing looks like. Yeah, that works. All right. It helps when you're trying to do projection exercises to reduce the stimuli in your outer environment, peaceful, quiet, and as little light as possible. If you really want to freak yourself out and find out how far and fast your consciousness can go, do like sensory deprivation. Most people freak because they start getting to know themselves. And if they don't know themselves, stuff comes up from the subconscious and it gets scary, and it can make you really, scared. Some people get really, really scared if they find themselves in a sensory deprivation situation. So you don't have to, scare yourself or be, in a sensory deprivation completely. But the less stimuli you have out here to take your attention back this way, the more you'll be able to focus in when you're starting to project. Because when you're projecting, you have to pull in and contract into your mind and then project out on another vector. It's literally angling the units of consciousness at a different particle spin to get out of this one. So with this one, they're saying simply visualize this code at the pineal. They're telling me this is going to be a sixth strand access, a sixth dimensional access to the mente gates, which is the minimum required for library access. Okay? Now, a sixth dimensional access implies that you would visualize the ruche in the indigo color, the pale kind of like bluish violet indigo color that is the D6 wavelength. So visualize the ruche in the pineal in the indigo color. And before you do this at home, you would bring up your Maharic seal, because it's not going to work without D12 frequency running. You need the subharmonics in there. So once you have your Maharic seal, which ours are still all up, have the ruche in the indigo color, energize it with some of the pale silver current, bring it up from the earth's core, up to your main vertical current, energize the ruche. Then you're going to form a ball. Just visualize a ball of silver energy. If you need to do a few more breaths to feel like you have more of the silver energy, make a ball of silver energy, pale silver, around the ruche. And then inhale and do a quick exhale and take the ruche with your awareness. Remember, this is going to be a carrier of your awareness. Go and send it right down to Earth's core. Okay. Now try to feel the reality of yourself as if you were a little tiny self sitting on or within the center point of the ruche within the silver sphere. This is going to be like your little spaceship that you get to travel on, your time travel ship. Try to feel what it would feel like. You have your consciousness here, but you're going to send a little part of your consciousness down. You can send it down as a spark of light and put it down in there at the 13th chakra, in the center of the Riche, in the silver sphere. At this point, you would consciously give the command as to the direction you want to go, your coordinates. Now, if you were speaking in symbols to yourself, you'd simply visualize a symbol and project that symbol down there, put it in the Riche, and it would take you. It will also respond to the words that you tell it. And what you're to ask this time, and it's a special, it's an invitation that is not usually extended. That little piece of consciousness you've sent down there that's ready to ride in the Riche vehicle, simply give the intention. The Mente libraries, please. It'll take a little bit of practice, and you're probably not going to be able to do it in the group. All right, you're not going to be able to go in and have this half-hour experience wandering around a Mente. But you give the intention. A Mente libraries, please. You have to get a lot of your consciousness out of your head up here and download it down your main vertical current and put it in the vehicle. And at a certain point, the vehicle will start to feel like it's vibrating, like there's enough of your conscious attention in it where it can actually follow that intention and start to go someplace. There are ways that you can imagine the long journey where you see all sorts of scenery. Because one of the first things you'll see when you begin to access a Mente, it's as if you're deep down under the earth in caves. But the caves are very comfortable. They're damp but not overly wet. And they're cool but not cold. They're a very nice comfortable temperature. You may find yourself feeling like you're in the dark at first, but you'll see like an area of light. When you begin to activate your Riche vehicle, try to imagine, a Mente libraries please, while visualizing with the consciousness that's down there, that you're going to go into the Mente caves now, the crystal caverns. You're going to start traveling, and the intention is going to get you to the location in the halls of Mente that you want to get to. For some people, you will be given a tour that could take an hour. For other people, you'll pop up right at the door of the library. Now, there will be one common sensation for everyone. And if you didn't have the Riche vehicle with you, you would not be able to pass. There will come a point where you should see, as if you're in a darkish cave, you may see more light at first. But if you can create the image of the darker cave, and then see a little bit of light coming, not too far in the distance, and try to imagine that you're sitting in your Riche vehicle, and it's going to respond to your thought. You're going to make this little bubble of pale silver light with you inside of it in the Riche, move toward that light source. When you get close up to the light source, try to visualize a membrane, because there's a membrane that separates inner Earth from this Earth. It has to do with particle spin ratios and electromagnetics. It also has to do with security cloaking fences that are on all of the Mente portals, so they can't be invaded from surface Earth. Without the Riche activated, you wouldn't be able to pass through the membrane without somebody who had access to take you through. They'd have to come out and get you and literally take you through by holding your hand symbolically or something. But you can get yourself down there through a little bit of a dark cave, or maybe a longer one, depending on what journey you want. Get to the point where you follow the light in the cave, that wherever the speck of light might be in the cave, you follow it where it gets big, and now you're in front of a doorway. This doorway will look different to every person. There's reasons for that they'll explain to you once you get in there if you really want to know. But imagine now that you're in front of the doorway that will take you to the location in the Mente that you specified, the library. And now inhale in your body and push energy down, the pale silver energy, push a burst of it into the Riche bubble. That makes the bubble spin, and it makes the code itself start to hum. And it'll hum a certain set of tones, and it's the tones that allow the membrane to temporarily dissolve. And imagine yourself passing through the membrane into the inner Earth. inside of your pale silver vehicle with the ruche. And now imagine that you can feel the little the push, like you're going through a little skin membrane, like you actually feel the push, like this energy pushing on against you, and you kind of pop through the other side. And when you pop through the other side, notice something amazing happens. Your bubble disappears. You're no longer a little person sitting in a ruche vehicle. You're like a version of you, a little less dense, even wearing the same clothes you have on right now. You can, if you want to, at that point, say, I think I'd like, a different set of outfits for here since I'm in the inner earth. Or you may just want to have the clothes on that you have on. But you'll find that you will pop out of your vehicle and find yourself in a less dense version of your body. It's part of your astral body combined with part of your mental body. So you can hold the focus. Now, once you get in there, there's several different ways to get into the libraries. You may be immediately introduced to someone may come up to you and say, hello, I'm so-and-so, I'm here to show you. Now you have your D12 frequency with you. It's literally running through your body and around your body once you pop out of the ruche. So you don't have to worry about, excuse me, I can't talk to you until I pull up my mark seal. You already have that frequency. There will be journeys on the other end of this that you can get tours of the halls of Amente. But the libraries are very sacred. So try to imagine now that a part of you knows instinctively where the libraries are. Try to see if you can open the eyes of that body that popped through the membrane. To the people in Amente, you'd look like a ghost image, but they'd be able to see you. Just like some people can see ghosts here. You're taking your ghost body over for a visit. Try to imagine and feel there's a part of you that knows exactly the direction. If you go straight, turn right, go up a set of stairs, there's a part of you that knows your access to the Mente libraries, because these access keys were given to you before, I think in other lifetimes, but they were re-given in childhood in this lifetime. So try to imagine yourself moving along, try to feel your feet walking, try to feel what it feels like, because the matter feels a little different. It's a little lighter under there. It's kind of bouncy. And move in the direction. Let the visuals come to you. And when you're doing this at home, you'll be able to do this much, much better. Let the visuals come to you. And you'll start to see your path to the library. You'll manifest it as you go from the coding you already have in your DNA that you already know how to get there. Imagine you're opening the door to the library itself. And the part that I would like you all to try to join right now with, imagine there's this massive library, and it has lots of little specialized reading rooms that you can go into for privacy. But imagine all of a sudden we all pop up in the library together. We all got there at the same time, kind of looking, hello, hi. Yeah, okay, we're here, sort of. If your consciousness keeps flipping back up here and you're not quite in there, you'll literally be like an image that flashes off down there because you're focused back here. But you'll learn to hold both focuses. At first you may fall asleep when you're down there, where your body falls asleep. Eventually you'll get to the point where you can hold the consciousness in both spaces at the same time, and literally you can send that body in one direction, and you can go do your dishes or go to work or whatever, and come back and talk to each other, you and yourself. But now we're going to all pop up in the library, and we'll all see a little bit different part of the library, but one thing we'll all see in common. There is a set of books. They're very, very large books. And they're on a very simple, plain shelf that looks like it was made in ancient times. It's a simple wooden shelf. And behind the wooden shelf is simply like a cave wall. It's not a fancy library here, not where these books are kept. But there's a very special energy, a love energy of the earth itself that's in the wood and in the walls that helps to sustain these books. And imagine that one at a time, we're all going to go up. We don't have to wait till each one of us does this, but we're each going to go up, and we're just going to put our hand, we're going to run our hand across the bindings of the books that are facing out. There's 590 volumes. There will be one of those volumes that holds a key for every person that has to do with an incarnation they had, where they originally had their assignment, their Christos realignment mission assignment, because they were all written in the plates. Try to just, when you get to this space in the library, just use your right hand first to transmit a bit of your frequency to the books. The books will say, oh, that's this frequency. They'll throw a frequency back, the one that corresponds. And then take the image of your left hand, you're down there in your little body, in your left hand, and run that across a whole row of books. and feel a vibration in the palm chakra of your left hand. That's the book that's talking back to you. Talk about talking books. These are quite the talking books. That will be the first book that you'll be guided to begin to learn to read. And it will help you to understand better, more about yourself and your life mission here. And it will begin to activate some of the memory more quickly. I'm not sure why they've given this gift, but I'm glad they have. I know how special it is to me when I get, they've never actually told me how to get in there. I've never gone there by my own will. I've been invited and taken, literally, on journeys. So you can leave a part of yourself there right now if you'd like to. And when you're going to go to sleep tonight, remember to bring it home, or you can leave it there for a weekend or even like a month if it wants a long vacation. You can send a part of you there in this way in order to find more information, and it will send it back to you into your DNA template where it becomes available to you. Or you can simply say, okay, I'm done in here now, and you can go back, visualize the ruche, make yourself tiny and see the big ruche pop out around you, and you're in the ruche bubble again. Feel yourself moving back through the membrane. Feel yourself moving vertically up as you're coming back up into your body, into your pineal, and then open your eyes, and you hear. The ruche holds the mathematics that lets you pass the membranes, and it holds all sorts of other things too. But this is a basic technique. It's very simple. Ride the ruche, take it down into the core, because you have to go down before you can go up into a mente, and then find the doorway in the membrane. And from there, you will know what to do. A part of you will know what to do. If you play with this meditation at home, you'll probably amaze yourself, and don't get scared if you meet people. All right, you can't be harmed at that point when you're in your ruche. All right, you're carrying that frequency. When your body expands back out, you're still fully coated with it on that body. That body won't be carrying quite the same amount of miasmic distortion as the bodies here do. This is the beginning. Getting to the halls of a mente. If we ever want to go into inner earth with our physical bodies, it starts with learning to get our thought form bodies, our mental bodies, and our D4 bodies in there first. Because if we can get them in there enough, where there's enough of us focused in there, and they go back and forth, it will progressively activate and clear the DNA template to allow more and more of our physical body to go with us. We're eventually working with the techniques this way and working with the projections. We will build the fastest way possible to get our Merkabas to the place where they actually have the ability to pass through portals physically without imploding. You know? So that was a little gift from the Iani, and they hope you have a good time with it. Ma'a says they're looking forward to seeing you all. It's been quite a while for most of you. This has to do with the children's schools, my goodness. They've had children's schools for a long time, the Inner Earth Iani races. And there's usually not very many people that in any generation are selected to do, for that. They have to have quite high, like, universal service contracts to have that kind of direct contact. So it would be nice if you email us sometimes. Like, if you start playing with this, if you ever want to share anything with us, we'd be glad to hear, because it's kind of like, oh, great, a group that goes through too, that has been there before too. That means a lot to us personally. As most people are like, wow, you were there, I wish I could go there. You guys were there, and you're going to start remembering. So I hope you enjoyed that little journey. But that can be much bigger, a much bigger journey. I want to thank you on behalf of Az and I and the Guardians and everybody. Well,
there's a happening behind me.
There's a happening.
We have a little gift for you.
Oh.
Say thank you very much from our hearts.
Thank you.
And for spreading the beauty, we got a Canadian flag.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, yes. Oh, I've always loved this flag. You know how some flags are kind of, eh. I've always loved the Canadian flag. I've always loved maple trees and maple leaves and maple syrup. That is a wonderful flag. Oh, I love it. We need a new room in the house with a wall big enough to hang it on. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Figure out today how we could find just a half an hour to take a piece of Calgary home.
Yep.
And I mean, this is better than anything we could find.
Yep. Thank you. And just thank you all for your flexibility, your patience, your interest, your hearts, your souls, your avatars.